Entitled mom demanded I give up my seat for her toddler, then lost it when I said no. I was on a crowded city bus during rush hour, standing near the back because all the seats were taken. A woman with a toddler in her arms got on a few stops later and immediately started scanning for a seat. I noticed she looked around desperately, then spotted a young woman sitting in a priority seat near the front. The mom marched right up to her and demanded she give up the seat for her toddler. The young woman politely said she needed the seat because she was pregnant, but the mom wasn't having it. She started yelling about how her toddler was just as important and needed to sit down. Drawing the attention of everyone nearby, I was standing close enough to hear the whole thing, and I could see the young woman getting more and more uncomfortable. The mom then turned to me and said, "You're standing there. Why don't you give up your seat for my baby?" I told her I was standing because there were no seats left and that the priority seats were meant for people who needed them most, like pregnant women or the elderly. She scoffed and said, "My toddler is more important than some stranger," and started yelling at me too, calling me selfish and rude. Other passengers started to get involved, some telling the mom to calm down and others backing me up, but she just got louder, demanding the bus driver do something. The driver came over and explained that the priority seats were reserved for people with special needs, and toddlers don't qualify. The mom refused to listen and kept causing a scene. Eventually, the driver had to ask her to leave the bus at the next stop because she was disturbing other passengers. Before she left, she shouted that I was a terrible person and that I would regret not giving up my seat. I felt bad for the young woman who had been targeted and offered her my seat once the mom was gone. She thanked me quietly and said she was used to people not understanding. The whole experience left me shaken but also proud that I stood up to an entitled parent who thought rules didn't apply to her. As the bus continued on its route, the atmosphere remained tense but gradually settled down. The young woman I had offered my seat to smiled softly and told me her name was Emily. She explained that she was 7 months pregnant and had been dealing with a lot of stress lately, including rude people like the mom who had just caused a scene. We started chatting quietly, sharing stories about difficult encounters with entitled parents and how exhausting it could be to deal with their demands. Emily said she appreciated that I stood up for her, because too often people just ignore or give in to these kinds of entitled behaviors. A few other passengers came over to thank me for speaking up, saying they were tired of seeing people get bullied on public transport. One older man told me that standing up to entitled parents was important because it set an example for others, including their own children. I felt a mix of relief and pride, realizing that sometimes doing the right thing meant making a scene, but it could also inspire others to stand firm. Emily and I exchanged numbers before we got off the bus, promising to keep in touch and support each other. As I walked away, I thought about how entitlement often makes people forget basic kindness and respect, and how important it was to hold firm boundaries even when it's uncomfortable. The whole incident stayed with me for days, reminding me that sometimes standing up for yourself and others is the best way to fight back against selfishness. I also started paying more attention to how parents act in public, noticing that while many are kind and patient, some really expect special treatment just because they have children. It made me wonder how entitlement develops and what we can do as a society to encourage empathy and fairness. I'm glad I didn't back down that day, and I hope sharing this story encourages others to stand their ground when faced with unreasonable demands. After that day on the bus, I couldn't help but reflect on how entitlement can affect not just strangers, but also family dynamics. A few weeks later, I was at a family gathering when my cousin's wife started demanding special treatment for her kids. She insisted that everyone rearrange the seating so her children could sit closest to the TV, even though it meant others had to sit uncomfortably. When someone politely suggested that maybe the adults should have priority since the kids could move around, she snapped and said, "You don't understand. Kids come first, always." It reminded me of the mom on the bus, expecting the world to bend just because she had children. The situation escalated when she started criticizing the food, complaining loudly that there weren't enough kid-friendly options, even though there was a whole table of snacks and sweets. I noticed how the rest of the family started to avoid her, tired of her constant demands and entitlement. It made me realize how exhausting it must be for people around entitled parents, constantly having to walk on eggshells or give in to unreasonable requests just to keep the peace. I decided to speak up gently, reminding everyone that family gatherings should be enjoyable for all ages, and that a little compromise goes a long way. Surprisingly, a few relatives agreed with me, and the atmosphere lightened a bit. It was a small victory, but it felt good to set a boundary and encourage respect for everyone, not just the kids. That day, I learned that entitlement isn't just about demanding things in public, but can also poison close relationships if left unchecked. Since then, I've been more aware of how entitlement shows up in everyday life and how important it is to address it calmly but firmly, whether it's on a bus, at a party, or within family. Standing up for fairness and respect can make a difference. I'm still learning how to balance kindness with assertiveness, but I'm proud of the progress I've made, and I hope my story helps others feel empowered to do the same. Since that family gathering, I've noticed entitlement creeping into other parts of my life, like at work, where a colleague with young kids expects everyone to cover their shifts without question, claiming family comes first, even though it's unfair to the rest of us. I've started speaking up more, explaining that while family is important, fairness and teamwork matter too. It's been challenging because some people get defensive, but I believe setting boundaries is necessary to prevent resentment. At the same time, I've been reflecting on how entitlement can sometimes stem from stress or feeling overwhelmed, especially for parents juggling so much. It doesn't excuse rude or demanding behavior, but understanding that has helped me approach situations with a bit more empathy. I try to balance standing my ground with kindness, reminding myself that everyone is human and struggles in their own way. I've also become more aware of my own behavior, making sure I don't unintentionally expect special treatment or act entitled in any situation. It's a constant learning process, but I want to be part of the solution, not the problem. Overall, these experiences have taught me the importance of communication, respect, and fairness, whether dealing with entitled parents on a bus or navigating family dynamics. These values help create healthier interactions. I'm grateful for the support of friends and family who encourage me to stand up for myself and others, and for the lessons I've learned along the way. Life isn't always easy, but facing entitlement head-on has made me stronger and more confident. I hope sharing my story inspires others to recognize entitlement when they see it and to respond with courage and compassion. Lately, I've been thinking about how entitlement affects not just individuals, but society as a whole. It's easy to dismiss entitled behavior as just annoying or rude, but it can cause real harm by creating division and resentment. I believe that teaching empathy, respect, and fairness from a young age is crucial to breaking the cycle. Whether it's parents demanding special treatment or coworkers expecting favors, setting boundaries and encouraging understanding can make a big difference. I'm hopeful that by sharing my experiences and standing up when it matters, I'm contributing to a more respectful and compassionate community. Looking ahead, I plan to continue advocating for fairness in all areas of my life. I want to be someone who listens and supports others, but also isn't afraid to say no when something isn't right. It's empowering to know that standing up to entitlement doesn't mean being mean or aggressive, but rather being clear and confident about what's acceptable. I'm grateful for the lessons I've learned and the people who have helped me grow, and I'm excited to keep building healthy, respectful relationships. Thank you for reading my story. I hope it encourages you to recognize entitlement when you see it and to respond in a way that protects your well-being while fostering kindness. Remember, you deserve respect and fairness just like everyone else, and sometimes the hardest battles lead to the most meaningful growth. Keep standing strong and taking care of yourself.